Joining us live in the studio today is Father Edward Nemeth from the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. He'll be offering us a little perspective on today's announcement and what it could mean for the global church and our local congregation. So, Father, thanks so much for taking a few minutes this early evening. It is a momentous occasion. We want to start with the big one, the first American Pope. Been through this transition just a couple of times in my life, and it's always felt from pundits like an American Pope was always a long shot. Why do you think it's different this time around?
Well, yes, I never thought I would see an American Pope in my life because there has always been this sentiment that they would never elect a Pope from a superpower. The difference with Pope Leo XIV is, while he is an American and he's just from around the corner, right? He has spent so much time in the mission fields and so many years in Peru, both as a missionary, but then there as a diocesan bishop and apostolic administrator. So he has such a global understanding. And then his work now in the Curia in Rome at the Dicastery for Bishops, you know, he has a global sense. So I think the electors probably didn't see him as much as an American as they did who they thought was the right man for the job.
Yeah, and it seems like someone who can speak 5 or 6 languages, and he showcased that skill in his first address today. Early on in his career, relatively early on, he joined the Augustinians, which is a mendicant order, and much like Pope Francis, who was a Jesuit, it's an organization that entices the idea of taking a vow of poverty. How do you think that part of his life, and maybe early on in this long career of his, how do you think that will perhaps shape how he approaches his papacy?
I think from the early indications that the simplicity of life that comes from the vow of poverty, it's not so much. Everybody thinks of the externals and the physical things and the possessions, but it's really a spiritual mentality. So I think the fact that we have a pope from a religious order that has taken that vow of poverty, it's also poverty of spirit. It's not to be attached to the world, and that's the true beauty of the vow of poverty and the simplicity that I think he's going to bring. It's not necessarily going to be a temporal simplicity. Like we saw him restore the traditional garb that the newly elected pope wears, because he's a man in humility who is accepting the office of the papacy. But I think he accepts it also knowing, as he said in his opening words, like, we are all journeying back to the Father. And I absolutely loved when he said that. Like, we're journeying back to the Father. So all this is not what life is about. Life is about eternity. So I think that's how that's going to play out in his papacy.
That's wonderful perspective. Father Edward Nemeth, thank you so much for the time.
My pleasure.